All right, so we have another talk today. It's going to be focusing on helping us to build a proactive and healthy relationship. And this is a behavior that we usually tend to do if we're not conscious about it. And today's talk is going to be about defensiveness. Why do we do it? And how do we go about it? How do we overcome it? Stick around. All right, so guys, what do you think about what causes defensiveness? What do we do get defensive? What is defensiveness? How do you describe defensiveness? When you justify ourselves. When does that happen? It happened like 4 times just earlier this morning, right? I'm sorry, when you're trying to? When you feel attacked, offended. What did you say, everyone?
You want to justify yourself.
Justify yourself. And we usually do this as what? To protect. It's an automatic behavior to protect ourselves. And this is, even though it's common and people use it a lot, it impacts relationship, I would say significantly or maybe severely. How does it impact relationship? It hinders what? Okay, that's very good. It hinders the honest conversation. It hinders the flow of the conversation and the honesty about, yes.
They could misunderstand it as like a talkback or argument.
They can misunderstand it as talk back or argument. Yeah, because it comes across as such, right? Because I'm saying this and it's like, oh no, but. And this is quite it's very common for the person who's trying to reach out to you and you're getting defensive. When we get defensive, the other person feels what? Unheard, disconnected, you're not understood, right? And the main topic is that whatever they're bringing up is not being addressed. And the other person is focusing on what they think is focusing on the issue. But the person who's bringing it up is feeling like, oh, you're just trying to protect yourself from getting in trouble. And this is very true for all types of relationships. At work, in a romantic relationship, parent and child, siblings, also married people. Defensiveness is I would say, one of the most negative behavior that can impact relationships. So we fear vulnerability because when somebody's bringing it to our attention, and what do we do? What do we do usually is like, oh, I'm being on the spot. I feel vulnerable. I need to explain. I need to bring myself up so I don't feel that vulnerability because I am being questioned. But actually, it's not necessarily a question that you're being addressed, or the person is not reaching out to you to question you, but they could be just curious, right? They're just curious. And one of the most common things that causes us to be defensive is what? Low self-esteem. The lower the self-esteem, the higher probability and possibility you're getting defensive, because you feel like you what? I did something wrong. I need to justify it. I was well intended. I didn't get my point across really clearly, so therefore I need to explain it. But that's how defensiveness comes across. So, this self-esteem, so we're trying to go deeper now. What's causing that self-esteem to be low? You have been criticized throughout your life. There is this critical voice inside your head that you're not good enough. So therefore, you always have to talk back to this voice in your head that you mean well, that you did good, that you're worthy, that you can do you can do it on your own, right? So all of these things can be in your head, and therefore we got used to this criticism, and therefore we need to always explain ourselves. But actually in a relationship, what comes across is that you're getting defensive. You're not listening to me. I mean, how many times I've heard that when the person brings it up, it's like, how come you're late? It's like, Oh, so there's like people get defensive right on the spot. How come was this not working? Oh, but I did, but I did, but I did, but I did. It's like, I'm not saying what you did, you didn't do enough. I'm just saying, how come it's not working? How can, let's figure it out, right? So, so I always say, and you can check all the talks that I have said in the past, and it's one of the most common things that people misunderstand. They see I'm feeling what? Attacked. I'm feeling offended. What are some of the things that you guys mentioned earlier? Put on the spot, right? All of these feelings are not coming from the person who's asking you, because I cannot make you feel one way or another. I cannot. That's not possible. Regardless of how I behave, if I were to yell in your face and I would scream at you and scold you left and right and call you names of different colors and your family members, I do not have the power to make you feel one way or another. And who has that power? You. You have that power to feel one way or another. And we feel one way or another because we interpret this behavior was something in the past that was insulting, that was offensive, and therefore we interpret that as an emotion that triggers. But actually we do have that capability to manage these emotions and to bring them to a different meaning, to a higher meaning. So have you ever seen anyone being scolded and they just stood there? It didn't faze them. It didn't bother them at all. And you're thinking, well, stand up for yourself. Like, I don't have to. I've been called stupid. I've been called dumb. I've been called so many names, but I really didn't have to react to that because I know I'm not. And they cannot make me feel offended or make me feel that I need to explain myself what I did was not stupid. I cannot. I mean, they don't have that power. But on a bad day, I was low, even I'm not able to react well, so maybe I get triggered. But I'm the only one who has the control of how I feel. No one can make me feel sad. No one can make me feel offended. No one can make me feel alone. No one. That's something that I have control over, and you do too. But what happens is when we go to school and they don't teach us how to manage our emotions, when we go to in a family, in an environment with the relatives and all that, we learn that so and so made me feel angry. We learn, oh, he offended me, or you're insulting me. If I were to call you like you're ugly, is that offensive? Only you can decide that, if that is offensive or not. Am I right? Any thoughts on that? What do you guys think of that? That's been my argument. And I mean, it's just, I didn't come up with it, but this is really how we manage emotions. Yeah.
I think that you can find it offensive, but it's up to you on how you want to react to being offended.
Well, the emotion itself, I own it if I feel that way or not. But what you're saying is out of line, but it doesn't make me feel a certain way. I don't feel offended, but you're being out of line. You know, I think that you would need to, if somebody come and to call me, it's like, you're not being nice. You know, be nice. But I don't feel anyway. I mean, either way, I would say I wouldn't feel offended, and I don't feel evaluated or validated or any of that stuff. But so the person can be as aggressive as they want to be verbally. Physically is unacceptable. There is no such thing. People don't make me feel pain. No, I feel pain when you hit me. So that's different. Physical pain is different. So the same thing with trauma. When traumatized, so we always tend to explain ourselves. We always tend to get defensive to protect ourselves, because it's a mechanism that we use to protect our image, to protect our ego. And it comes so quickly. It comes so fast because it's hardwired in our history, in our upbringing. That's how we brought up. And we were brought up that way because our parents, that's how they brought up. And you can go back. I personally link it towards that's how it started. And people start to get the feel of insecure, and they had to protect, and they had to be proactive and so forth. Another thing that can impact us or can make us be defensive is being a perfectionist. Being a perfectionist is like you always need to explain everything, and everything needs to be clear. Um, and that feel of being misunderstood. If you feel like you're throughout your life you're not understood, people don't understand you, so that's an automatic behavior that you always need to defend yourself. You need to defend your action. You need to defend your decision. But, you know, usually we don't say but it really is implied. It's like somebody was saying earlier, like so and so didn't do it right, right? And this defensiveness came across really fast. It's just because it didn't feel good for them, and from their perspective, they did it right. So getting that feedback, and this is very common when I was in the corporate world, I give feedback to my team. I have to think a million times what to say, what words to use before I give them that feedback, because they might feel that way. I'm not going to tell them anything that they would feel one way or another, but they might feel that way, and that's not going to help the review. So that's during the review, and that's when people most of the time feel defensive and they need to explain themselves. But it's not about explaining yourself. It's just about what? When you're getting feedback, what is it about? When you see being told that you didn't do it right, what is it about? Improvement. You can think of it as a feedback, but it doesn't mean that if we think you're perfect, then what? We would explain ourselves, right? It's like, why? What do you mean? You cut me off? I was going straight. But I was this, I was that. But no, you did this, you did that. So we're getting defensive. We're not understanding what the issue is. The other person is wrong, probably because they cut you off. I mean, it could be just being in line, right? And they start to explain themselves, and they're in a hurry. Their baby is in the car. They have to rush back to work. They can give you all these excuses so they can cut in front of you in a line. And then what do? We get defensive. It's like, oh, my life is also important. You know, I have to go back to work as well. So where does that conversation go? So can you imagine having that? So this is a conversation that you would have with a stranger. Can you imagine this conversation that you have with your parents? How come you're late? Why you're late? I told you to be here at a certain time and we have dinner together. You're not here. What do? Oh, but the cat was late. My friends, flat tire. All the problems come, right? And you're probably telling the truth. But how does that help your parents that they missed out on the dinner? So what do we do instead? It's like, we just need to share with them, because if we think of what they said to us about missing dinner as a family dinner, and we missed out on the family dinner, and if we're thinking that we're being questioned because of our actions that were not good, then we get defensive. But if we're thinking about how much they valued my presence in that dinner, and we missed an opportunity to be with the family, and that's empathy. It's like, oh, I really missed it too, and I really, I feel horrible that, I missed it. I really wanted to be there, and I feel like we would have had a good time, and all. So that empathy is how we can cope with, instead of being defensive. Like also with the stranger who cuts in front of us, we can empathize with them. You can judge them for being lying, but how does that help? We don't know if they're lying. We can judge, right? We can judge anybody for doing whatever, just to fit our ego and to fit what we need. But it's empathy that would take a lot of energy for us to make that as the natural language. Because defensiveness or being defensive is the natural language that we tend to resort to really quickly. But empathy is what is important, that we all need to develop. And that's how we cope with the, I would call, bad behavior or negative behavior of being defensive. What are your thoughts, guys? What else can we do that we can, to improve, that would help us be less defensive?
some sense of humility because you get defensive. It's your ego is bruised, and you want to protect your ego, but you can
That's right.
like lower your ego, accept that sometimes you do wrong, sometimes the other person does. Like we're all human and all that.
I see. So you're saying what I'm hearing is that increasing your sense of humanity. Is that what I'm hearing? Humility.
Yeah.
Humility. All right. So basically being humble. So increasing your humbleness. Okay. I'm into increasing. I don't like decreasing. Because if you're decreasing, you're focusing on a negative. But I would like to focus on the positive. So we want to increase our humbleness. And that's what really humanity is. Being human. Having the ascendance, that's having something more meaningful that is really uniting me with this person who is rude, cut me off, and I'm also late. So I need to think of it from a different angle. That was really good. Appreciate that. Any other thoughts that you guys feel like we can all improve? Um, yeah. Question. Yeah.
Just like someone on the other end being offensive when you're clearly not trying to provoke it. Like how will we help that person? Like how will we clarify to them? Oh, no, I'm not trying to attack you or anything.
Yeah. So the question is like, what if I am asking someone and someone got defensive? So how do we handle that? How do we make that person feel less defensive? You can't. I just mentioned earlier, we cannot make people feel one way or another. People backbite. They when their feeling is triggered, they backbite like, oh, this guy is mean, this guy is person, this and that, and there is really not much you can do because they already were defensive. So what we can do is because if we were trying to make them feel differently, then they're sucking us into a negative spiral, and you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. So therefore, to avoid it, so I would rather focus on avoiding it as opposed to reacting to it. Meaning that how I say it, it needs to be said in a way that is focusing on the task, not on the behavior. And if the person is triggered, they get defensive, and I was like, okay, so I'm not getting my question answered. I'm asking, why is this not working? And it's still not working. Right? If I were the father, I'd be asking, how come you missed dinner with the family? I'd be like, oh, but how come you missed dinner with the family? Because what? Because you could have left earlier, you could have planned it better, you could have, right? How come you missed dinner with the family? I'm not hearing how come you missed dinner with the family, right? So you can be defensive and explaining, but that doesn't mean that I need to go there. I just need to stay that. I mean, actually, the proper way to say it, if I were to be that father, I would say, we really missed you in the family. We would have had a much better time. Then if that person heard these words and get defensive, then that's a problem. Because I didn't say you, right? I said we as a family missed you. We would have been nice to have you with us during dinner. It's like, oh, but I was late. But then you're getting defensive. You're really not listening. You're not staying with the person, with the father, your dad or mom is saying that we missed you for dinner. It's like, yeah, I really missed you too, guys. I really wanted to come and I couldn't. I'm really sorry. See, I, not you. Yeah. So the best way is to learn how to initiate the feedback. So when we initiate it, we focus on the I. So we focus on the I need this, I need that, and focus on how to do it, on the task, as opposed to you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you're late, you're wrong, you're this, you're that, right? And if you notice, both incidences, or the 3 incidences, or whatever, how many incidents happened this morning, it all started with the first person said you. If you were to reflect on what was said, the person said you or she or he, right? And that triggered the other person. Do I remember it correctly? You guys don't remember? The incident said, oh, maybe you were not here. Yeah, you were not here. You came a little late. So another thing that we can do to improve, so we can improve to reduce, the negativity. So we need to improve our self-awareness, the emotional self-awareness. If you feel triggered, just be mindful of what I said. That person has no power over your emotion. So therefore, there's something inside me. I need to have a new connection. I need to understand this better. And the more you're self-aware about your emotions and what's triggering you, the more likely that you will be able to be proactive and not defensive. I'm sorry? More in control. You get to know, these emotions that you have inside. What's triggering? Oh, you know what? That made me feel like that. And if you were to reflect even further, like, I remember that was my teacher. He beat me up and embarrassed me in front of all the children, and I really needed to explain myself. And until now, I feel like I need to go talk to that teacher and tell him or tell her that I was not the person who did it. So we're all human, right? It's memories that we have, right? It's always there that we need to always address it. So we're mindful, so we understand these emotions are coming from. So they're coming from within us. So the more we know these emotions, the more we what? The more we know ourselves. And that's really important. Last but not least, we need to be consistent. We need to be consistent in our behavior and how we manage these emotions. So we do have a training. I'm not sure next week we do I'm sorry. What is it called? The PNC? The PNC, is it? CNC? No? PCC. PCNC. Yeah, PCNC. CPC. Yeah, CPC. That's it. Yeah, CPC. Yeah, we'll learn how to do this. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of what's the behavior. The negative behavior today is talking about defensiveness. How does it impact relationship? Is really negative. It's just you can't measure it. It's quite negative. But the funny thing about this, I just thought about, nobody talks about how negative it makes them feel when the other person get defensive. Nobody talks about it and tell them, I'm feeling like I'm being not hurt. Nobody talks like that, right? Especially around this neck of the woods. It's just like it's not often that people talk about how they felt. So therefore, it just goes under the rug, untalked about, unmentioned, unaddressed, and it kind of, guess what? It gets builds up, and then the people start screaming at each other before you know it. So, and that's why it impacts relationship, because everybody wants to be, nice, but how much we can keep it, right? It's gonna snap one day. All right. So, last thoughts, questions? Yes.
So you mentioned that defensiveness also comes from self-esteem. So how do we increase our self-esteem?
Very good question. How do we increase our self-esteem? Should I give you a quick answer, or should we give a talk about this? Okay, the quick answer is that you need to know about yourself. You need to know about these emotions, what's triggering. The more you know about yourself, the more your esteem exists. The more it's because it's going to start to feel heard, right? So the more you explore on what's inside you, you start to feel heard, and that really helps the self-esteem. All right, and we can have another talk about how to improve your self-esteem. Until the next talk, stay happy.